We just finished our third RC drill program, 48 holes, like you say. We focused along this main 3.2 kilometer trend. We started at Excelsior, that's where the bulk of the holes went. We went over to El Dorado, we drilled a bunch more.
Hello, welcome to Assay TV. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Shane Ebert, who is President, CEO, and Director of CANEX Metals. CANEX Metals are an exploration company focused on the Gold Range project in northern Arizona. Shane, thanks for joining us today. If we could start things off with maybe a little overview of your Gold Range project there in Arizona. It's in an area of a lot of historical mining, yeah? So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it is, Leo. Nice to be here. Thanks for recording this. Gold Range is in northern Arizona. It's been seen active mining since about 1880. A lot of small scale mining here and there. There was a little bit of more advanced open pit mining in the 1970s, 1980s, but it's really an area that's been untouched by modern exploration. So I went here a few years ago, did a property exam. A prospector found a high grade, nice coarse gold sample with a metal detector. Looked around, liked what I saw. I liked the footprint. I liked the size that was shaping up for the system. And very quickly, we put together a pretty good project. Started with 3 claims, and now we're at 244, and just recently added 40 to add a couple kilometers of strike length along the main trend.
And you've got these sort of, is it 5 major sort of zones that you're looking at and along this sort of 3-kilometer strike, yeah? Yeah,
so we put this together from zero. So a lot of our understanding grows with time. We've identified some major structural corridors and trends, some of these multi-kilometers long. So we have on the southern part of the property, we've got a mineralized corridor, 3.2 kilometers defined in soils and surface mapping and now drilling. That has the Excelsior Zone on the east side, the Melco Zone in the middle, and the El Dorado Zone on the west side. Our work is showing that this zone is probably all tied together into one large, fairly major district scale structural control. And coming off and intersecting this structure are some other faults, bigger structures that we've traced for up to 5 kilometers now. And they host things like our Adit Zone, the Lillian and Central zones, which we've also drilled a couple holes into recently.
Absolutely. And your initial discovery holes, I mean, what sort of grades are we talking about and what sort of intersections?
Yeah, so very early on, we were focused on the high grade gold veins, which occur over a wide area, but we got looking at some of those and we're starting to see halos. So over on the El Dorado zone, our first understanding of the bulk tonnage potential came from holes that were in the 20 to 30 meter range of 1.5 grams gold. With some half-gram material in there as well. And from there, we really started to define and trace the zone over to the central Melco and then the Excelsior Zone. And we had to do a property deal to add that to the claim package. Difficult deal to do. Those claims were held in a family group for a couple generations, never seen modern exploration. But we added that to our claim package. Fantastic acquisition for us because now we've really defined the zone, and it looks like the Excelsior end on the east side is where we're getting good grade. We've got a lot of good grade holes, and we're really proving and defining the significance of the discovery.
And that Excelsior Zone, that's named after a former mine, yeah?
Yeah, so the names, we haven't been too creative. We've kept the historic names for a lot of these things. So you'll see on historic maps and literature, Excelsior was a mine that was operated small scale back in the 1880s, as was El Dorado. Melco, the same thing. There's a lot of little shafts and adits that go through the hillsides where the old timers followed these veins over, hundreds of meters and pulled a fair bit of gold out.
Absolutely. And you've recently completed, so I think 48 holes, RC holes. Tell us a little bit about where those were focused and so how deep were you drilling?
Yeah, exactly. So we just finished our third RC drill program, 48 holes, like you say. We focused along this main 3.2 kilometer trend. We started at Excelsior. That's where the bulk of the holes went. We went over to El Dorado. We drilled a bunch more, and we also put 4 holes into Melco in the middle. So we were focused on really extending these zones along strike and testing them to depth. We haven't drilled these very deep. Most of our holes are 65, 75 meters below surface. A handful go a little bit deeper than that. So we're really getting our feet wet, identifying the gold zones along strike and fairly shallow at this point.
Absolutely. But the mineralization is from surface, yeah?
Yep, comes right to surface. And for the most part, it extends as far as we've traced it. So the zones remain open along strike, and we've got quite a bit of potential to expand the zones that we've been defining so far.
And the results you've had back from this recent campaign, you've only had a few holes back, yeah? What are you seeing so far?
We have, that's a good point. We've got 28 holes still pending. We're seeing some really strong gold results, especially out of that east side, the Excelsior Zone. Holes results including 24.4 meters of 2.2 grams, 35 meters of 1.6 grams, and more recently in hole 57, we hit 59.5 meters of a gram. That hole was mineralized from the start of the hole at 0 to the end of the hole. And it's really showing that the zone over at Excelsior is widening and opening up as we go south. South of that hole, it's all undercover. We can't see what's there on surface, so we're relying on drilling. So from that good hole of basically 60 meters at a gram, we've stepped out and we've done 12 meters over 200 meters of additional strike length to really flesh out the significance of that zone and identify if it's widening, if it extends, how far it goes, and we'll see. Results are pending.
Absolutely, as you mentioned. I mean, I think was it holes 82 and 83. You're still sort of finishing those up and waiting for results, yeah?
Yeah, so we've got all our holes done now, but we are waiting on lots of results. This round of drilling has recently wrapped up, and we look forward to planning and implementing the next one.
Fantastic. And in terms of the grades you're hitting, how do they compare with other sort of mines in the region, in the area?
So very well, especially in the Excelsior Zone. Any of these grades above a gram, and especially above 2 grams, are considered high grade for this style of bulk tonnage deposit. In the Western US, the average of the majority of producers is about half a gram. So it really holds up well. And on top of that, we've done preliminary metallurgy on 8 samples from a range of depths and across the width of the system. And the recovery is excellent. In fact, it's about 97% recovery, cyanide soluble recovery on pulps, which tells us it's probably not refractory. And what we see is free gold in the system. So on the metallurgical side, it's very good in that regard.
Excellent. And you've also been doing some soil sampling to sort of find some other targets around the region, around your area, yeah?
We did. We have reasonable exposure over part of our property before we get into a covered basin. We now have over 3,000 soil samples that we've taken over the property, and the big scale structures and mineralized corridors are really being pulled out with those soil samples. We just released 680 samples from around the Excelsior Zone, and that sort of opened up the whole structural and exploration idea for us. Originally, and even up to the last drilling, we thought Excelsior was this fairly narrow zone, 20 to 100 meters wide that extended for 3 kilometers. With the new work we're doing, we see that this really extends over a width of at least 500 meters. And within that 500 meter mineralized corridor, which could extend for 3-5 kilometers in strike length, we've now identified 3 or 4 sub-parallel Excelsior lookalike zones within that. A lot of that corridor is undercover, but where it pokes up on small hills and stuff before you get into the covered basin, we think we're on the tip of the iceberg there with Excelsior, where we've drilled and defined. We get great continuity at Excelsior over at least 300 meters. The results from the last 12 holes are still pending. But if we have 4 parallel zones instead of just 1, we really open up our size potential. So it's exciting. It's a fun time to be exploring, and we're learning a lot as we go, and there's lots to learn.
Absolutely. And so what are your plans for 2022 in terms of getting more drills out there?
So yeah, so we got to get results for this program. We've got a little bit of permitting to wrap up. That's underway. We've got to target some more holes. We really want to get back on the ground and do a bunch more drilling. And again, like I just mentioned, we want to focus on these 500 meter wide corridors and not just one mineralized zone within that corridor. So I would love to go and put a series of drill holes across the entire width of the corridor over a good chunk of the strike length. And I think we have a shot here at really opening up the size potential. And there's more potential along strike under the covered basin. As we'll learn as we go, but hopefully we'll extend this out and make it a fair bit
bigger and better.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that update on the company, introduction to the company, really. And we look forward to hearing more from you as you get out and start drilling these new targets.
Sounds good. We're excited to get results from 28 more holes out to the market and get moving on the next phase. And I appreciate your time. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you very much.